Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness, standing room only. This is just so incredible to see such a crowd here today and to be joined by these incredible women to my left. It is just an honor to be here at Sundance, the home of never playing it safe and taking risks on independent filmmakers. This is our second year as an initiative here at Sundance, but an iconic year celebrating the final chapter for this festival in Park City, and of course, remembering and honoring the remarkable Robert Redford. My name is Daphne. I am the founder, yes, more to come on that. I am the founder of Breaking Through the Lens, an initiative that was born in 2018 at the Cannes Film Festival, the same year that 82 women stood on the steps of the Palais, leaders of our industry, to say enough is enough when it comes to the shocking gender disparity that continues to be pervasive. We are now at an all-time low. We've got some incredibly shocking numbers from the USC Annenberg initiative that we are at an all-time low of 8% women directors in the top 100 films of our industry, down from 14% in 2024. So this is a time where our work is more important than ever. We as an initiative started 8 years ago to take action. Everything we do, all of our work is founded on a very simple truth, that it is access and not talent that is the greatest barrier to women and marginalized filmmakers of our industry. So we work tirelessly to help improve access, and we do that through 3 different avenues. Events such as this and our festival activations, our business education around the business and sales of our industry, and then our grants, our action grants, and our fiscal sponsorship that we provide. And I'm so honored today to be announcing our 5 finalists and our winner of our action grant, which I will be doing in just a moment. But before I do that, I have to just say a quick thank you so much to a visionary woman named Catherine Mosley of 1220 Entertainment. Yes, and Tiffany Boyle of Ramo Law, who introduced us to Catherine right at the beginning. We are an initiative that connects people, the decision makers, and people that have the money and the power to make the creativity of our independent filmmakers happen. And Catherine is the example. We ourselves are filmmakers, and Catherine is the example of a woman who understands what it means to take risks and to back people with vision. We had the vision for Breaking Through the Lens, and just like the films that we support, we needed someone who could turn that vision into a reality. So we are super grateful to Catherine and our incredible brand sponsors that have gotten behind us. And here today, we are in this unbelievable space, the Canon space. And is there water somewhere? I'm like, no water. If there can be a water, thank you, Canon. But we're just so grateful. Canon has, thank you. To see my big face over there. All right, thank you, Canon, for the water that you provide. Very essential here in Park City. No, but Canon, not just for the 15 years that they have sponsored the Sundance Film Festival, but for over 80 years, they have been a fearless champion of independent cinema and backing filmmakers who operate from a place of courage rather than convenience, just as Sundance does. And I have been just amazed to hear about the many different opportunities they provide, free gear loans to qualified filmmakers in exchange for marketing assets from the film, and the Canon Burbank facility, which offers a multitude of services, and much, much more. So we thank you, Canon, not just for providing us this incredible space to host the event today, but for your belief in independent cinema and standing behind voices that are telling their stories from a very bold place. So thank you, Canon. It is impossible to stand here today without acknowledging what is going on in our world. Alex, our incredible COO, and I were watching the news, just absolutely horrified, and the pervasive violence and division that is taking over in our world and in the backdrop of our society today. But it is just so important to remember that stories can be our lifeline. Stories can be our bridge. It is the oldest form, it's the oldest art form, and stories have the power to help us empathize with people's lived experiences across the world, and to actually put ourselves in their shoes and to physically change policy, not just change our minds, but to change policy and shift our culture. And it is so essential that those stories that we are telling represent our culture and represent our humanity, which is more than half women. So I've just been so moved listening to the voice of Robert Redford at the start of each screening, talking about the spirit of Sundance and the importance of independent cinema to defy convention, to defy logic, and that actually the survival of independent cinema depends, it exists not on the market and pleasing the market and on numbers, but actually our survival is based on our soul and speaking to our soul, and that is when real change happens. And we, as an initiative, share that belief and that conviction. And everything we do, even though we support at the financing stage, every single thing we do encourages people to really operate from that place of soul, passion, and to defy logic. I just loved hearing him say that, not to let numbers rule us, but to really listen to our soul, because when we are moved, whether you're a funder, a creator, audience member, go against reason. And I just challenge you all to really listen to your soul and to your gut. And that's what we are all about as an initiative. And as I said, we are here. I'm going to be announcing our incredible 5 finalists. We had over 450 submissions from 60 countries, and our incredible jury that comes together to defy logic and reason and really seek out our 5 finalists that are, and many, some are here today. We also have shortlist filmmakers that are here today. So without further ado, our 5 finalists this year, these are all films that are in production or in late stage development and will be coming through our program this year. We have Thirsty Girl from director Alexandra Chen, which is a brave, emotionally raw, dark comedy about addiction and sisterhood in America. We have Exodus Stories from director Ilse Fernandez, an incredible, intimate documentary following Central American immigrants navigating a broken asylum system with resilience and faith. An urgent, truly urgent and vital documentary. We have The Fire in Us by director Sun F. Young. This is an immersive, it's our first immersive project, and it pushes boundaries and invites audience into a BIPOC futurist vision of climate justice shaped by youth voices. We have Camino from director Annabella Fazio Menino, which is a queer Western set on a rural Spanish ranch exploring identity, desire, and rebellion. Fantastic script. And finally, I am so honored to announce the winner of this year's Action Grant, a documentary called I Brought You Into This World from director Brittany Farrell. We have the incredible producer of this film. I wish we had Brittany here with us today, but we will be FaceTiming her later. But we have Shannon Sun Higginson, who's here in the front row with a wonderful producer. I Brought You Into This World is an intimate US documentary following 3 Black birthing people, 2 women and 1 gender non-conforming parent, navigating pregnancy, love, and survival in post-Roe America. The jury was struck by Brittany's brave and sensitive approach as a birth worker herself. She steps in front of the camera, not just behind, and plays a trusted role within this community. And the grant will be allowing them to document this third storyline of the gender nonconforming parent. So again, a vital documentary. And I will now, without further ado, pass the baton over to our incredible, not only board member, very active, hands-on member of our team, and an incredible multi-hyphenate. The reason Liz is the perfect person to do this, to lead our discussion today, is because she understands the industry from multiple different angles. And she herself is a Sundance alum. Yes! Liz was here with, with films such as A24's Never Going Back and A Ghost Story. She's a former journalist, an actor, writer, now directing also her first feature. And she is an Indie Spirit Award winner for 7 Days, which she produced with the Duplass brothers, and was nominated for the Producers Award here in 2023. So we are so fortunate to have Liz today leading our discussion. Thank you again all for being here, and enjoy the conversation.
Thank you, Daphne. That was a glowing introduction. I want to take the time to thank our accomplished panelists who are now getting water. Thank you so much. I'm okay. And also thank Canon for the space. I will say quickly that I did use their loan program for promotional purposes, which was incredible. So it's true. They do so much for filmmakers. Okay, so Saba Zerehi is an impact-driven producer whose most recent film, If I Go, Will They Miss Me? And it premiered at the Sundance Festival on Saturday night. Olivia Wilde has not one but 2 films here at the festival. Just this past Saturday, she made her Sundance directorial debut with The Invite, which she stars in as well. And she also acted in I Want Your Sex, opposite Cooper Hoffman and Charlie XCX. Award-winning producer and president of Imagine Documentaries, Sara Bernstein. She leads the development and production of premium documentary feature films and series, such as Frida, The Supermodel's Pets, and most recently, Barbara Walters' Tell Me Everything, which is starring on Hulu. And last but definitely not least, alongside Natalie Portman, Sophie Mas, founded their company Mountain A. It's focused on producing works by early career filmmakers such as Kathy Yan, who wrote and directed The Gallerist, which just had its Sundance premiere over this weekend. And we're here talking at Sundance. So many people here are probably emerging filmmakers, and I think it's so great that we have such a diverse and broad perspective from our panelists, from fiction, from nonfiction, a director, producers, actor. So I think that it'll help bring new light into this conversation. And one thing I want to say is how hard it is to make films. We know how hard it is to get your film made. You have to have so much passion and so much resilience. So my first question is kind of a 2-part question that I'd love to ask each of you. What was it about the film that either you have at Sundance or a recent project that was undeniable? Like undeniable for you to put this much time and attention and your life into it, as well as getting people to come on board. It has to have that undeniable quality. And then how long did it take you to get the film made? I'll start with you, Olivia. You have 2 films here, but we could, focus on The Invite since that's the one you directed.
Sure, yeah. Okay, the undeniable quality of The Invite was the opportunity to turn it into an experiment for the type of production I've always wanted to be a part of. And that was one that was entirely designed to be conducive to the best possible performance and best experience, really. I had been in development on all these big projects for years, and I was getting so bored. I was like, why the fuck did I end up with a desk job? Like, all I do is Zoom, and I was depressed, and I was like, I just want to make a movie. Let's just make a movie. And there was this excellent script by Rashida Jones and Will McCormick that had been floating around for a while and looking for a home. It had gone through different incarnations, and they sent it to me, and I read it, and I thought, wait, this it's such a simple idea, and it has the framework that allows for this experiment. And that was, can we shoot this on film in order with rehearsal? Which like seems like it should be normal, and yet it was such a novel idea. And when I pitched it to the actors, none of them had experienced that, despite the actors who are Seth Rogen, Edward Norton, and Penelope Cruz. None of them had had that experience. None of them had ever shot anything in order. And of course, we all know that's largely driven by logistics. It's almost impossible if you have to move around different locations, etc. But it felt like the way to try to do something that was just designed for our experience, and first their experience, because I wasn't going to be in it, for their experience to be really driven by the instincts of the performers and the story. So that what was undeniable was the opportunity for this experiment. And I just was willing to fight the good fight, as you pointed out, because it takes like a lot of hope and a lot of delusional optimism to keep fighting for it.
And you said that it had been around for a little while. So how long did it take either you to get it, to production, or how long can you say like the project was out there?
I don't want to get it wrong, because they had been
approximately.
working on it it existed for over 5 years. Yeah. It is based on a Spanish film called Sentimental, which was released in the States as The People Upstairs, and which was based on a play. So it had this like really cool IP. It was really interesting. It was a great script, but it just like so many great scripts, just couldn't get going. And I think that often it takes someone just really bullish to push something into production. Yes. And I am that person. And so from the moment I had it, I think I grabbed onto it in November. We started shooting in April.
Oh.
And that was this April 2025.
Wow.
So it was really unusual in that.
Yes.
But I also said, okay, let's not like take forever with this. Let's see who's around and can do this now, and what space is available now. I wanted to shoot it in LA because so many of my friends in the crew community in LA were suffering. We had gone through the pandemic, we'd gone through strikes, we'd gone through fire, and people I knew had their houses burned down, and they were just struggling. They're like, what am I gonna do? People were like, please make something so we can go to work. And many of our crew members hadn't worked in 9 months, and that created this spirit on set. I mean, we built the whole set on a stage, and the construction workers were literally like listening to Motown and dancing. And I was like, I've never seen a happier crew, and they were just so happy to be there. And that spirit of theirs allowed it to happen at a remarkable speed.
Right. So you obviously had the passion and the fire, and then the ability to do that. I would imagine that it's a little bit different when on your first feature, or even your second one, which you were a producer on.
Yeah. It's easier when you have like Penelope Cruz. Like that's undeniable. Like it's a different thing once you have that factor. Although in this market, like it still wasn't. It was still a really small budget, and it was still really hard. But yes, the first feature, Booksmart, was impossible. I mean, impossible. Just dragging people. Praying, trying to get it done, then trying to get it to be seen, and it was a miracle that anyone ever saw it. It's a miracle that anything gets made and anyone sees anything, and we're just so lucky to be here.
And what about you, Saba?
What I was drawn to first, I mean, Walter had a beautiful short film that had gone to Sundance in 2022, and I think it was like the perfect accompaniment to the script because it's such a unique lyrical script, as is the short film. So I think having seen that, being able to see that and then see the script through the eyes of the short, it was a world that I didn't experience or wasn't a part of. I mean, I grew up in LA. The film takes place in LA. I grew up like middle class, but it was like took place in Watts, Nickerson Gardens. I'd never heard of it or been there. So being able to be a part of that and be on set and see like that world and that community and how gracious they were, and it was like so eye-opening and moving for me. And to be able to make films like that and put that out there for people that also don't understand what it is to like grow up there and the struggles, but also the happiness and joy that I think like is there every day, and I think Walter captured within the film as well, was just like very moving and was there from the script stage. So that's definitely what got me very excited about it. I know Walter had a different group of producers that they were trying to get the film off the ground for a few years and couldn't get it going. And then it came to me and my producing partner, and from there actually moved fairly quickly because we kind of were like, we can find a way to do this more run and gun, which is also matched, like Walt is very documentary style. Like while it is like a narrative film, he wants no restrictions. So I think actually making it smaller helped it to move faster and to give him more of the freedom that he wants as a director. So I think I met him like November 2024. We were filming March 2025. So also moved quite quickly.
But after a long journey.
Yeah, so it did
every
take
film
longer
has
for
its
him.
journey.
Yeah, so for me it was quick, but he was definitely
Right.
like trying to get it off the ground as well, like for a few years, and I'm just very like happy and grateful that we were able to like
Right.
get it moving. Yeah.
So a bit of a takeaway is like, don't ever give up and find the right people to work with and go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nothing against the other producers. Sometimes it just takes like the right group of people. Yeah.
Totally. And Sarah, is there a particular project that you were like, I have to have this story told? This is so important to get out into the world. And how long did it might have taken you to
Yeah,
get it
well, first of all, I
made?
just want to say congratulations to all of you who have films at the festival, like no small feat. And while we at Imagine don't have a film premiering this year, I've been fortunate over the years, both through my time at HBO and Imagine, to have had many films premiere here, so I know how special this experience is. I mean, look, my perspective is every film or project has to in some way be undeniable, because for us as producers, directors, actors, storytellers, like you have to put your heart and soul in moving every project up a hill. And usually at Imagine, I'm juggling quite a few. Our slate is usually like 20 different projects probably at a time. But I will say there is one project that I can't exactly say what it is yet, because I think we're going to announce it later this week. But it is with the fabulous women filmmakers, Julie Cohen and Betsy West. And this was a film that we have been trying to get in the pipeline and raise money for over 2 years. And we had financiers on board who fell through for various reasons. And we just kept going and going and going. And so we're finally at the point 2 years later where we're going to be in production. It's another female icon, which is very much, in their wheelhouse. And all I can say is it helps to have a few different projects that you're juggling or trying to develop at a time, because I think they all move at different speeds. So you just gotta keep pushing.
Right, totally. And how about you, Sophie, with The Gallerists?
Well, before I talk about The Galleries,
Okay.
I just want to say something. I was
Yeah,
lucky enough to
please.
be one of those women on the Cannes stairs in 2018. It was like incredible. And I just want to say it's really nice to see some men in the audience, because it feels like it's not only our job to work about, gender equality in the business. So thank you for being here. It's really nice. When it comes to The Gallerist, I think our job as producers with Natalie Portman, my producing partner, is just, it's meeting a director, the captain of the sheep. And we met with Kathy Yan. We were lucky enough to receive The Gallerist screenplay actually in July 2024. We shot in December 2024. So that was really, really fast. The script was amazing. And we flew to New York to meet with Kathy and just understood her vision, felt like we needed to just support her and make it happen with her producing partner, Ash Soroya. And it was, I think the concept behind The Gallerist of, it's a fun ride, but it also talks about what it means to be a female artist, what it means to, what you have to do to succeed, the compromises potentially you have to make within an industry or marketplace. And so we were drawn to, first and foremost, working with this director, but also, make sure that we could provide the best for her.
As Daphne kind of pointed out, that financing is a focus of Breaking Through the Lens, and I found this really interesting. There was a study in 2022 from the Swedish Film Institute that talked about how a project that directed by a woman takes over 400 days longer in development than it does for a man, and even the USC Annenberg Initiative had talked about the fact that that there is this gender, disparity, that it's not just women, we could just say marginalized directors. For the purpose of this panel, we can focus, on women. And so one of the pillars of breaking through the lens is, is action and helping filmmakers. So what I'd love to pose now is in terms of your path to production. I know Sara mentioned money falling in and out. Was there any obstacle that you faced on your projects that you overcame? Like what was some kind of like outside the box thinking or a solution that you came up with on your path to production?
For this film specifically, I think going back to what I was saying and how Walt likes to work, we kind of threw all the rules out the window, and like we shot, I think 90% of the film without permits. Like if I can say that, being in Nickerson Gardens for the majority of it, we call him Mayor Max. He's a resident that's been there for over 50 years. Maxwell, and it was like he quite literally opened doors to people's homes that we filmed in. Most everything, it was very run and gun. It was felt very documentary style for it obviously not being a documentary, and it was so really freeing, and it was really nice to just know that the focus can be on the creative and making sure that we're just creating the safe space that my director needed with talent, and there wasn't all this noise in the background that often comes with just how you have to set up a production. So I think that was, I think it shows on screen. It obviously wasn't the easiest because we had a much smaller crew just so we could stay hidden. We had decals on vans so people didn't see that they were G&E vans. So we really just made sure that people didn't know we were there, that didn't need to know.
Some good tips for emerging filmmakers.
So sick.
It was really fun, I'm not gonna lie.
One challenge, I shooting on film was a battle. I wanted to shoot on film, and I got the response I'm sure many of you have gotten, which is just no. My line producer couldn't have said no faster. I think he felt the word film coming out of my mouth, and he was like, no! And I was like, yes, that's what's happening. And we found a way to do it with our partners at Kodak, and it was a real struggle, and I think that it's probably a struggle for male filmmakers as well. But in my experience, that was something that was I had kind of had it with giving up on all my non-negotiables. I was like, I just want to stick to what I want to do. Every time you give up time, you give up rehearsal, you give up money, you give up film, you give up the people you wanted to hire, you give it all up, and then you're like, what are we even doing? This isn't what I wanted to make. And so I just decided, what if the experiment was to not compromise? There's of course the compromises that are necessary creatively that you're just it's part of the evolution, but the important one to me, one of them was film. And so it was a struggle that could have blown up the whole thing, even though it shouldn't. It's not that, I don't know why they act so dramatic about it. We can handle it. We did it for a long time. And it ended up being great. And it's funny now because now, it's there's part of getting your film to a festival and having this moment, which is so extraordinary, that is just really vindicating. When you're just yeah, that's right, motherfuckers. It looks good because we shot on film. And I just feel the lesson it taught me was, even though it might stall you a little and it's a struggle to remain uncompromising in a reasonable way.
And so maybe the takeaway, you obviously can't fight every battle, but maybe knowing, filmmakers knowing what the hill they're kind of willing to die on, so to speak. And then would you say that you kind of used the why it was important to you to convince, or how did you you persuade?
I put my fee into the movie and I paid for the film. I also I had to justify it because beyond the cost, there's this idea that it will be logistically a nightmare, that it's unpredictable, that it's dangerous. Again, it's this Jurassic technology that I was pulling out of the Smithsonian and saying what if we shot on this stuff? It's this is not that hard, or come on. But I think that the why really helped, and it was, for our specific film, just so clear. The why was really clear to me, which is like, it was a very simple piece in a very simple space, and the film created dimension and texture that I think the film really relied upon and created a very different dynamic.
And as a director, you want choices. So some film you might want to shoot on film, something else it isn't the right fit for.
Some it's like, great, let's shoot on an iPhone. Let's like work like her and not use permits and just be badasses.
But every project's different, so kind of knowing that the approach,
yes,
and having the right approach, is probably.
And then knowing that approach and sticking to it and being firm on those non-negotiables. Yeah.
Great. Sara.
There's so many to choose from. I don't know.
I know, because you were the one that mentioned like money fell out, money came back in, and obviously we all know about that happens.
As a producer, executive producer, I'm involved every step of the way of these projects. So I just feel like every project is its own beast. The money, money is real. We all know financing is we're all kind of in the hunt for financing these days, or we're pitching to our streaming partners or distributors. So I think, in the documentary world, you're always rolling with whatever comes up, whether it's legal issues, of which there are plenty, or access issues, or trying to lock a very high-profile talent. It's a three-ring circus, but rewarding.
Yeah, rewarding is true. Yeah. Sophie, any stories that pop out in your head?
Yeah, a story comes to mind, which is not on the galleries because MRC financed the film and we were very happy to work with them. They were great partners, but I think finding money and financiers is almost like looking for a marriage, and you want to, have a good marriage because you're going to be together for 2, 3, 5 years longer, depending on the project. And so it happened to me that, we had secured financing after like struggling, and as we were like going through the deal points, it felt like it was not a good marriage. And it's this problematic of this questioning of, should I stay because I have the money and I'm going to make this project happen, or should I leave because it doesn't feel good for the project, whether it's creative or it's just further down the line, the distribution that we're going to have to choose, whether this person is going to push us in this, And so I decided to stop the financing, and it delayed a little bit the project, but I think it was a good idea. And I just want to say it's hard to find money, but there is money out there. And so you also, on top of money, want to find the right people that understand the project, have the same vision for the project that you have, as much as possible, obviously. But it's good to know also when to say no to money if it's not the right people.
Yes. And I think that is a huge takeaway. Something that I constantly struggle with is saying no. Knowing when to say no, this isn't good enough, or when to walk away. The USC Annenberg Initiative was referenced earlier, and one thing that I found so interesting about it was, when Daphne was pointing out the percentage, and it was like specifically with the 100 top U.S. box office films from 2007 to 2025, only 6.6% of the directors were women. But the thing is, we all know it's difficult for everyone to raise money for your film. However, when they talk about the top 100 box office, what it showed was that the career progress stalls for women, on the way to top films. In lots of discussions, when you're talking about your first feature, it's you scrounge money together, you get your friends to make it, you make a micro-budget movie. How do you elevate? Like, how do you make your second feature, your third feature? And I know, like, Saba, you've worked with a lot of first-time directors. Olivia, we talked about this is your third feature, and Sophie, you were talking about with Kathy, this is her third feature. So is there any lessons that you wish, like, either you would want to tell your emerging filmmaker, or Olivia, if you could go back to when you're, about to shoot Booksmart, any lessons that you learned that you would want to share with your previous self or your directors?
You might go first. You go first. I don't have a good answer, so get it out of the way. First, have a good therapist. Make sure you really want to do it. I think it's really good to, like, especially starting out for the director, to be very involved. I mean, most first-time directors are really like producing their feature as well. Like it's not you just hand it off and someone's taking care of it. So like to really be like immersed in the process and what it takes to get it made. So because you don't want to also be at the mercy of like hopefully you have a great producing team your first time and you keep working with them, but you just don't know who they're always going to be, and you don't want to just blindly put trust in people. Like be involved, know how it works, because you're also going to be the one you have to push them. Producers are always doing a lot of things at once. They're not solely committed to you either. So that's kind of the first thing to come to mind, and also just have that second project ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
What comes to mind is talking to a lot of female peers, the experience that a lot of women I know have is that it takes so much time and focus to make your first feature. It really can take a dent out of your life, and it really takes you away from your family and your responsibilities away from work. And I think that culturally, it's still the case that is more unpopular for women. I'll speak just personally, you know, the amount of conversations I've had with like I have 2 kids, school administrators explaining to them that I have to take the kids out of school to go, because I'm going to go work on something for like 6 months, 9 months. And they're like, really, you want to do that to their education? Is that the... And I'm like, yeah, I do. And I get that a lot of the dudes just leave for that whole time. Right. I'm not trying to be like general. There's a lot of guys who don't do that.
Totally.
I'm just saying it does happen. And I think it is the case that a lot of women feel that the sacrifice is something they don't find to be possible to do again. And it happens a lot. I'm wary of saying it because I don't want to sound like I'm saying it. It sounds like
No, but that is so
misogynistic.
insightful. It's so true.
And it certainly was in my experience. It feels like there is still a kind of societal pressure not to completely devote yourself in an obsessive way, which is what a director has to do. I think what a producer also has to do. So it is, I think, about remaining steadfast in your dedication to your work, and remaining confident that is your right to go and do your work, and remaining aware that we are, as all human beings, incredible multitaskers. But I think specifically, women tend to be very good at that. But I also think like really choosing your projects carefully so that you know, is this worth it? Once you make one feature, I think like it better be worth it to direct something. You better love it, because it is a marriage to get into that relationship with these producers, and it is a full thing. So I've talked to a lot of female directors who were like, I did one, I couldn't do that again. I couldn't do it again, and that it breaks my heart, because it's like, what do we need to do to create the support to allow women to feel that they are absolutely capable of doing it again?
It's true. I've heard so many women talk about they feel like they have to make a choice. It's either A or B. You know. And so
Yeah, I just want... Can you hear me? I just want to say something also as our responsibilities as producers to have, how do you say, like mother-friendly environment on set.
Yes.
Because it changes a lot on how, the crew, the director, the actors can actually work and see their family. And it's just insane when you think about it as maybe one of the rare places where you just basically have to make a choice if you're going to shoot for 16 hours a day. And I think just thinking about, okay, we're going to work and then you'll be on time for dinner, just because it should be the norm when
That's Mari Heller, the great Mari Heller, has this thing where she was talking about how on her film, I think it was the Mr. Rogers film, she said post-production is going to end, at the edit, we're going to leave at 6. And that was this novel idea. And she said, this thing happens in the edit where around like 5:30, 6, someone comes around like, hey, should we order dinner? And she's like, no, let's work faster and go home. And she's like, I think the business was designed by men who didn't want to go home.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's like, design a set where kids can be there and a schedule where you can go home.
And that's why representation is so important. So you have all these perspectives, and you need, people in decision-making positions and have power, because then they can create those environments that are inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think, can you guys hear me? In the documentary world, we actually have a of women directors. And I've worked with a lot of women directors over the years, and I've also worked with a lot of first-time directors, and I agree with you, have your second project ready, because this all ends at some point, and then, people want to know what you're doing next, so it's helpful if you have that. But what's interesting is there aren't a lot of, so there are a lot of, in the doc world, a lot of female directors or women directors, but there aren't a lot of women who run the companies or production companies. So I think it's interesting, because I think even at Imagine, I mean, we have Ron Howard, we have Brian Grazer, we have it's obviously a male-led bigger company, but it's been nice at Imagine Documentaries because we pretty much have almost an all-women team and a lot of mothers on our team. And I think you do have to, when you've been doing this for a long time and you know what the sacrifices are, like at some point you do want to make allowances because you have to live your life and be there for your family also. So I do agree it's all about sort of the environment that you create.
And I don't appreciate it. They're like, they also want to see their kids, actually. Yes. They just have accepted the system that I think was designed by the other guys who didn't.
Right.
And so then they're like, actually it creates this environment of like, everyone's like, oh, wow.
We all have to juggle.
Yeah. And I think everyone makes better films when they see their family and they can just do everything,
Yeah. I'll add, I just did the last feature I just did, my director's 2-year-old was on set. Like, we just, from the beginning, it was in the budget there would be a nanny to take care of her child. And she said, I want to be home for bedtime. And it was not hard to accommodate. And it was not a big budget feature. It was really not that hard to accommodate.
And as a director or a producer, you can still be a leader, you can still be strong and be nurturing and be empathetic and be inclusive, It's been mentioned a few times about have your second feature ready, but I guess that's the thing. Some of you have production companies, some are independent, some have sales agency or sales backgrounds or studio backgrounds. So what advice would you give someone on to kind of scale up from like what you would consider more of a micro budget to something a little bit where you can pay your crew a little bit better and have a little bit few more days and so forth? Like how would somebody come to you or try to elevate, I guess you'd say, from a first time to a second or second to a third feature?
Can I say one controversial thing to count?
Sure.
Sometimes I think what I see happening to a lot of really exciting new directors is that they make this kick-ass independent film that's fully their voice and they had full creative control and it's extraordinary, and then they get sucked into a studio system that's like, do you want $80 million? Right. And then they make a movie that has none of their voice in it. So I think it's being really cautious. You have to just take a second and make sure that you're not just thinking, oh, this is the goal to jump to the bigger, which can be really enticing, I think.
That is so true. That is so true.
Yeah, I think it's about being intentional in what you want to do, and I'm not sure like thinking about how to elevate is necessarily the right way. I think it's like what do I want to say? How can I do it? There are so many examples. I think it's just being intentional of like not doing it because others tell you that's what they want from you, but also like how do I connect with the project? How can I make sure that this is my voice and that that it's going to be aligned with what I want to do?
So know exactly what you want to say and kind of wait for the people who want to tell that story too to kind of join forces with you.
Yeah.
That's and that goes into to my next question, which goes back to another one of BTTL's pillars of creating community, and building relationships. We try to help our filmmakers build relationships, and as most people say in this business, it's all about relationships. People think it's networking, but really it's like authentic relationships that you care about and nurture over time. And so love to hear about some of your collaborations, partnerships. We've pointed out that you work with Ron Howard. Sophie, you've got a long time relationship with Natalie. How did either the relationship form, or why is it successful?
Well, I'll take it first. So I was at HBO for a very long time, and then there was this great opportunity before me to launch a documentary division for Ron Howard and Brian Grazer's Imagine Entertainment. And it was exciting because obviously I was a fan of a lot of their work, and they had done a lot of true stories. so it was interesting to think about, well, how can we create, commercially viable documentaries with impact still, which I really believe in, for this, this Hollywood company. And it's been interesting. Like, we've been able to, while Ron will direct a documentary, we always have him, if we can, directing one documentary alongside his narrative work. Otherwise, like, we've created a whole independent documentary studio over there where we work with many different directors, some directors who have their own company, many directors who come and plug into us. So it's interesting, but we are able to leverage, the Imagine cachet or maybe Ron's relationships or Brian's when they work, and they're very supportive, obviously. But it's interesting because when going back to this conversation about how can you make your second film, and sometimes you can take your time, but it's good to find collaborators who you can develop your idea with, and I think we do a lot of that at Imagine, where we're working with directors. We have resources for any of you documentary directors in the audience, and we have a great development team, and so we really take time to work with our directors on, well, what does this project need, and how can we make it the best package possible. So it's interesting, but I mean, it helps to have some leverage, I guess, in this industry.
It's interesting because I think it's harder to make a second film than a first, obviously. And people often think it's like you have to get into the matrix, but it's also like, for me as a producer, it's like, it's your first film was your sort of your soul, and then the second one, what is the signal you're gonna send to the industry, the distributors? How are they gonna perceive you, the festivals? Are you changing gears? Is it like the same thread? Like and I think for us as producers is trying to be maybe a therapist or just having a conversation as to understand, like, what do you try to also think about the future? Like, what do you want? What is it that you want to say? And then help them succeed. But it's often conversations that are not made, I think, between a director and a producer, because then it's also like thinking of the second film, but also the third, in terms of money, in terms of budget. When you think about Chloe Zhao's trajectory, or when you think, thinking of those incredible films this year, like Sorry Baby, or, Masha Shilinsky, the German director, Sound of Falling. It's like everyone's curious. They want to know what they're going to do next, but it's also, okay, how do I make sure that my director is going to have the money secured for their next feature? And because it's not only creative, it's like all the support system from the distribution company and the sales company and like the international success of the film. So it's all these components that I think as producers we can think and help and support for their second or third feature, because you have to think ahead. I don't think you can just think about one feature, per se in the present moment. And also for the directors to know who they are. I think sometimes they just think like, what is the right story? I think knowing who you are and what you want to say will help make and choose better in terms of what you want to do.
Totally.
Yeah, in terms of like support systems or working relationships, I mean, I've been very lucky that I met my like usual producing partner on one of my first features a few years ago. My pitch is he's like what every white man should be in the industry / like the world. Josh Peters, he's incredible. He kind of became like a de facto mentor, but he's like never treated me anything but an equal. And for like how much more accomplished and busy he is, the support is always there. Like and vice versa. Like there's immense mutual respect and trust between the two of us. Like, I mean, producing is an incredibly lonely job. Mm-hmm. Like you can't do it alone, and it's very hard to find like-minded people. And also like just people with integrity, and they're not gonna like sell you out just as soon as an opportunity comes where they could achieve more success. And no, I'm just like very grateful for that. I mean, I wouldn't be here where I am if it wasn't for him. So hopefully we can keep working together.
I agree. I think there's nothing more important than the real authentic partnerships you form, and maybe it's with a producer. I work with an extraordinary producer, Saul Germain, who I've done short form content with, and this last feature, The Invite, with. It's the person who will sort of believe in your insane idea, like let's shoot a movie next month, and doesn't flinch. But I also have amazing partnerships with crew. My department heads, I mean, they are the brain trust, and I think it's also the people you can say, like Jade Healy, my production designer, I can say to her, do you think you can design a house in the next 2 days that we could build on a set? Again, someone who will believe in your delusion.
Yes.
but it's people who you feel you've earned that partnership from past experience, and nothing is better than people who say they've been through the trenches with you and they want to do it again. It's the greatest thing in the world. So, like, yeah, it's like that is so much more important than the networking, because even if someone's like, okay, great, here you go, you can make a movie, your next move is going to be to call your creative partners who can actually build it with you. So those are the important partnerships.
Completely. Wanting to have a kind of a positive outlook, and again, focused on our community here at BTTL, is there any time that you can remember, I'm sure there was a ton, but one in particular that's like, I don't know, we've been talking kind of about projects, then kind of talking about relationships, and then maybe just about career-wise, where a door was closed. You felt a wall, like, and that, like, how did you get around that?
I'm thinking if someone else wants to go.
Oh.
I mean, I will say, when I left HBO, where I'd been for a very long time, I keep saying, but when I went from being a buyer or a commissioner, right, to being a producer or executive producer, I definitely felt like it's isolating, and you're waiting. I was very used to incoming calls, and then all of a sudden I had to make the calls, and I had to build a slate, and I had to get it all off the ground. So I mean, I definitely think there was a moment where I was like, did I make the right decision? But it was a great re-education for me, I would say. So for any of you, just even thinking about your own career trajectories, like you can think you're going in one direction and then you wind up going in another, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything at this point. I love being a producer at this point.
That's great.
I think doors close all the time.
Yeah.
I was at the PGA panel earlier, and producers on stage were talking about how it's just not taking no for an answer and just keep going. So I think there will be doors that are open. I think it's, like you said, finding your community, making sure that you surround yourself, like Olivia said, with the people that want to do the same thing as you, that you can also grow with people. Like I think it's so nice to just trust people and that they can give you creative, honest feedback. And when door closed, it's meant that it was not supposed to happen, and so we just need to keep going.
I think maybe not so much door closed, but I think it's managing how quickly the industry changes. I mean, especially like the last 5 or 6 years, like you might think you're going a certain way, and then COVID happens, and then it's more managing that. Like then, I had a film that premiered at Tribeca, and then the strike happened, and then nobody wanted it, and it like didn't sell for like 2 years after that. So it's like, I think a lot of the quick things that are out of your control, that are unexpected, that I guess could feel like a door closing. And then, like changes the trajectory, and you're just gonna have to go with it and see what happens.
I think it's being able to push through failure. Failure is a part of it.
Yes.
I mean, every great athlete says they've failed more than they've lost more than they've won. And I mean, my last movie got fucking trashed, if you didn't hear about it, by critics, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and you work so hard on something, and whether it happens super publicly or super privately, the feeling of just getting like smashed down to the ground is kind of a part of this process, and there's something a little bit healthy about it. I mean, someone said to me, like, rock bottom gives you something to push off of. I think that, my first movie, had like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was like, woohoo, making movies is great. And I think my second movie is like, I don't know if it's broken 40%. It's at some, and it's the ability to say, like, we are proud of what we made. We pulled off something so hard. I love this crew. We worked so hard, and pushing through that and going for it again. And that is when you know you really love what you do. So I think a door slamming in your face is just an ability to do a gut check. Like, do I really love this? Do I want to do this? Because you can just leave. No one's forcing you to do it. But the ability to be like, woof, all right, whew, here we go, back up and go for it. And then it makes, experiences like, I'm having this extraordinary experience at this festival that's so healing and so inspiring. And it just comes from this deep belief in what we're all doing, and that it is sometimes heartbreaking, but it is sometimes really just the most incredible, inspiring feeling.
Wow, that's like such a great note, because it's both relatable and also inspiring, because here you are back and have another feature, and it's gotten great reviews. And so the idea of learning from when you fall down and having resilience and knowing your voice and honing your voice, because it takes time to do that. Another positive is that, with the lineup at Sundance this year, 40% of the feature films were directed by women. About 40% were first-time directors, and this is features, feature films. So there are positive things, and we at Breaking Through the Lens want to point out the issues or the problems that are systemic, try to figure out ways to be solutions oriented, but not have that kind of doom and gloom. And yes, it is so difficult to make movies. It's so difficult to raise money. It's difficult to sell your films, but want to have a little bit of positive energy. And so that was a really great perspective. Anything else to end on our wonderful discussion today on a positive note? A mentor, you kind of discussed that a little bit earlier, but like something that the state of filmmaking, something that you are inspired by, maybe even, a peer that you had come up with that you saw recently, just something to take away from the festival. You go. There's nothing.
Sorry.
There's so much good.
I think there's just based on log lines alone, there's just so many cool, weird movies that you're like, they so easily could have not been made, and it's just so great. I mean, look, selling a dead body at Art Basel. Like, I'm just so happy to see these movies are being made and people can watch them.
Yeah, absolutely. The director orientation Zoom for Sundance was like the greatest experience ever, because it was so many optimistic, excited people. And yes, it felt like more than 40% were women, and so many of them were doing the Zoom with like babies. There were guys with babies too. It was great. And it was like all these just excited people, and there's so much doom and gloom. There's so much pessimism about the film is dead, it's all over. And we're here telling stories, and yeah, I agree. It's super inspiring to see these films.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing. I've been coming to Sundance a long, long time, and I think it's just so amazing to be here with all of you and all these great films. And I will say one success story recently, there was a Sundance film last year that I'm so excited about and so proud of, and it's not one of my films, although one of my longtime collaborators is Geeta Ganbir's double Academy and Oscar nomination this year for her documentaries. And if you haven't seen The Perfect Neighbor, definitely check it out. But it's go women.
Go women.
And go filmmakers.
Yes.
I think Sundance and festivals also is a constant reminder of the power of cinema and the power of being in a room with other people, watching, experiencing, laughing, crying together. And that's the goal. I think it's stories and experiencing it together. So that's the really important thing for me.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It means so much to Breaking Through the Lens. I'm sure it means so much to everyone here. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to come. We really appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your Sundance, and we will see you again.